Hey, you
Here
know,
we
I
go.
am okay.
We're there now. It's starting to record.
Oh,
First of all, I'd like to say we're back on Hangout today. We're here with our Patricia, our Amy, and Tom Jones. Hello, everybody.
hello.
Hello. Hello, Karen. Patricia. Say-
Can you still hear me? Okay, now that the headphones are in.
Yeah, it's a little loud
Yes.
though. I have to say, you're a little bit like
Oh,
you can hear all
oh,
the traffic.
okay. Yeah, let me turn it down a little bit. Thank you for that. They're very good headphones for a reasonable price at Walmart. I was surprised. I and I didn't want to use Bluetooth because I don't have very much luck with Bluetooth headphones.
Oh, I know.
They're
Me
just
either.
sometimes with the phone calls, some of them have good microphones and some of them don't.
Exactly.
So,
But I'm coming.
Patricia,
Okay.
is Patricia going to say hello, Patricia?
Yeah, we're just waiting for technical problems to be sorted. Yeah, hi Amy, hi Karen.
Hi,
Tom.
Patricia. Hey, Tom. Karen.
Anyway, Tom Jones comes on the Unscrambled channel and Sun and Moon, and he had a podcast and he wants to talk about it. So, you've had a podcast and you would like to talk to us a bit.
Yes.
So, what happened then, Jane? What happened,
Okay.
Tom Jones?
Well, I had. You can call me James. Is fine. I had a conversation with a fellow on a platform called Talk Shoe, and so he invited me on. I was listening to another show at the time, and he invited me on, and so the spur of the moment, I decided to go ahead and do this call, and and I wasn't too disappointed with it. But we talked about how that I've been a victim of persecution, and I was not educated on purpose. I believe it was completely on purpose, and it didn't take me. It took me quite a while to kind of figure things out to where there, I believe, is a system in place that actually does this sort of thing to keep itself going. Is what I called it, a den of thieves, to when I went to the Attorney General's office, and and that is about the way I see it is they see intelligent children, like myself, for whatever reason, and they decide what they're going to do with them when they're young. And I think in my case,
You mean what you're talking about is not just the program we're putting. You mean you were putting an extra program?
yeah, I was not allowed to have an education. My parents, either they did it through, they have different ways of doing it so it doesn't look obvious.
Lord,
You know,
Tom Jones, I just stopped. I know this is about you talking, but when
Yeah.
I was a kid in the 60s, they introduced this thing called ITA, which was totally different phonics. They piloted it all the playgroups, all the little children, not preschool. So basically, it was to do the phonics. They changed the phonics where you had no joined up writing, and of course, then they didn't go with it. And I then went into a local school, so it was like being taught French and then being put in an English school. I couldn't understand anything, and I missed the whole of my junior school because of it.
I watched a video recently on something like that, how they were talking about how they changed the phonics system and just destroyed education.
Well, they kept doing it. Even my kids at school. My kids, first of all, they first had to learn the word to break it down to make the word. Then they had to learn the word and then learn to break it down. And then they put it back, breaking the word down. But this thing was called ITA. And there's thousands and thousands and thousands of artificially dyslexic people because of it.
Right. And this one video that I seen, if I'm not mistaken, was saying that the best way was just to pronounce the word the way you see it. And it was
Yeah, and then
something
learn
like,
to break it down. That happened when my son was at school. They've been changing the phonics or how they want to do it over
Right.
and over again.
Yeah, the video I saw was about how they did destroy the school system, the educational system that way. And in America, I guess they did it a long time ago, according to the video. And but some people are good with that, and some people aren't. Because you see people, they're accelerating in school, and in my case, I didn't really even get that chance. I mean, I felt like I was doing well. Like in the audio that I have a link to in the many videos and clips that I gave you, the 4 shared access to my 4 shared account, which is free. It's no problem. And I gave you the password in the email I sent you, and you can go in there.
I saw that. I wondered what that was.
Yeah, you can go into that account and you can look at any of those videos anytime you want. We don't have to look at those today. And those are just a few that I just did real quick. I haven't been preparing for this because, they watch me here, and I'm completely aware they're monitoring me pretty regularly. And
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, the lady upstairs, the one of the links that I sent you is a link to the water, my water that's been, that was polluted for like 7 years straight. And you'll see the pollution. It's not just some silly brown water and, something you can use a filter on. This is real pollution. And they kept it going for 7 years. They just stopped it about a little bit over a month ago. And I'm still taking baths, hand washing myself in buckets and that sort of thing without getting in that shower. Or
Asking you, why don't you move then?
Well, because I'm poor. Because this is a public housing building. See, they don't let me have a job. I mean, they'll let me have a job if I want to go, work for nothing and be even worse off than I am, where they can beat me up even more. And absolutely, there would be no way out of that. But for a decent paying job, they don't seem to be enthused about letting me have one of those, even though I had one before I, had to quit because I moved into a house that had a swamp for a foundation, and I didn't know that when I moved in. So the lady that owned it didn't tell me, and the people that were there before me that moved out didn't say anything. But when I moved in, the mold was so thick and infectious that I just became so ill I had to quit that job. But that is the same job that I've been applying for now for 4 years in a row, and they still haven't hired me back, even though I was a pretty good worker in the whole thing. They just I think now they're aware of what's going on, and they were aware back then because there were people trying to get rid of me on that job, and I knew that. There was a guy who pushed me down, and even he invited me over to his house, and he drove he gave me a ride in his car and smashed me into a guardrail with it. And oh yeah, and then he was trying to do something. He gave me a beer and he was trying to do something to the beer. And I caught that with my eye, and I was looking at this guy like he's trying to put something in my beer. So I didn't take it, but he was very insistent, and I was like, no. But I mean, if I would have been even slightly unsure that this guy just did something to that beer, I might have went ahead and did it. He was that persistent. But I stood my ground, and, and that guy, he had connections. He was a pretty connected person. His wife ran a museum of art, and she taught herself French. She was way out of his league, in my opinion. And you're going to hear something to that, a similar effect to that, if you listen to that podcast that I had with the other guy who, there was another person in my life earlier who's I considered my handler, who he was in charge of directing me in certain ways and getting ideas from me and that sort of thing. And he was just like introduced to me through the family, because my stepdad was, who knows what he was up to, but he was a nice guy, and he had some kind of shady friends. but
Mhm.
they never bugged me. I just went about my business. They knew better than to mess with Frank's kids, so I didn't feel too uncomfortable. But when they brought his kid in, and he came from Seattle, where he was stationed. That was where he was in the military. And I'll tell you, man, that Washington and Portland, that Oregon area, they seem like there's some pretty odd folks up there. I mean, like heavy duty uh, information society types. And and that's where a lot of people, even in the flat Earth
Can
thing,
I
is.
ask you? Can I ask
Go
you
ahead.
something? Your
Yeah.
point is that you feel that this has been happening to you for a long time.
Absolutely, and I can prove it. And I've been gathering evidence for the last 10 years to prove it. And while I'm gathering evidence, they're still persecuting me. So this whole time I'm gathering evidence, I have to deal with the persecution. See, I left America already. I left America for asylum 3 times. Okay, the first time I left, I went to Holland. Okay, and they were a weird place. I don't know if they thought I was just there being silly or just wanted weed, which I never did any weed when I was there. It's legal there. I didn't touch it. I had, and I'm just to show them that I'm not there just for that. And so I was on the straight and narrow and that sort of thing, doing all that, which is not straight and narrow because I've always been straight as far as I'm concerned. I'm not really, anytime I ever did parties, it was mostly with people that I was kind of in a situation that I had to be around, because I've always been poor. I've always not had much, and my family is the same way. So we sometimes end up with people around us that are maybe poor and living the good life at the same time, parties, or not good life, I won't say that, but
Tom,
enjoying themselves. Yeah.
You said you went to Holland. Where else did you go?
I went to Germany the second time, and so Holland didn't shut my case. When I left Holland, I didn't know there was some other process that I had to take care of. So I flew all the way to Germany, and even took the high-speed train and everything, and went there. And they said, you can't come here because your case is still open in Holland, if you can believe that. After all those years, they don't just automatically close your case. You have to call them and do it over the phone or write them a letter, and I didn't do that. I didn't know. So I had to leave and come all the way back again. And so I came back again, and then I got into the public housing where it's cheap to live, and waited again and again, and then I went to Canada. Okay, that was the call. That was right after I got back. That call with that other person was right after I got back from Canada. That was just
Are you going
not.
there because you feel that your life's been threatened? Is that why you've gone?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Not just life to death, which I would never care. I'm telling you right now, to me, there are worse things than death. 100%.
Yes.
I've lived them, and
Oh.
and so so that is not an issue to me. But what the situation is with these places is they got these people out there who are already, and these other governments, I'm almost convinced that these other governments are in this whole human trafficking thing. And I'm saying human trafficking is what they did to me. They tried to they try to put multiple faces on something sometimes to make you think of something a certain way. Like when I said Den of Thieves, then right away they came out with a movie, and this is going to be a pertinent issue too, is after I said Den of Thieves to the Attorney General, that's when they came out with the movie called Den of Thieves. And the movie was about these people that just stuck up or something. I didn't see the movie, but the part I saw was just these gun-toting gangsters that were shooting up stuff, and it wasn't about the real Den of Thieves who enslaved people by denying them opportunities and education and all covertly terrorizing them and that sort of thing. Not that one. So when people think of Den of Thieves now, especially if they've seen that movie, that may be where their mind is going to go. So when I say human trafficking, I'm telling you, man, these people, I am a high value target. I am somebody who made these people lots and lots of money with my ideas.
Can I ask
Ideas
you
that
something then? Can I ask you
yes,
something? This will be
yes,
going on my on a channel
okay,
publicly.
sure.
And you're just saying that they've done this to you.
Right. And I'm okay with that. That's why I turned off the face part. And you only know my first name. You don't know my last name. But I know if they already know who I am anyway. You seen the paper that I sent you on the link? Did you see that? Did you get that? I won't say if you've seen it or not, but did you get to see that piece of paper saying that the power was going to be off? That was right after I decided I was going to do an interview with you. They decided they were going to shut the power off on the day, that same day, today,
Oh
and
my.
yesterday.
Oh I remember the email with that in it.
Yeah, they know what I'm up to. I mean, I've made these people so much money. I mean, they already all know who I am. The only people that don't know who I am are people maybe like you and Patricia, and that some of the people that on the internet and that sort of thing. They've been keeping me under a rock for as long as they could. They have been absolutely making sure I go nowhere. I have no friends. I have no family, nothing. And if I do, then that can be an issue for them sometimes. That's something they have to, they decide. Because they don't give me
Can I
quality.
just say,
Yeah,
Amy
yeah.
or Patricia, if you want to ask James a question at any time, I'm sure he'll answer it. I don't know what
Sure,
to,
yeah.
I don't
Thank
know
you.
what to say because I'm on Unscrambled. I'm doing it more as a collective that they're doing this to
Okay.
everybody, but you're talking
Oh,
about you're being targeted personally.
yeah. Well, that's it's right. But we could talk about other things. We don't have to necessarily talk about that. We can talk about how they do it. I mean, they since I was a kid, I knew that they were that something was going on after about high school, but I wasn't sure what. They didn't educate me in high school. They just told me don't come here. You know, they told me don't come here. And even though I wasn't even old enough to quit school yet, they just told me don't come here. And then they had maybe one guy try to beat me up. Well, he did beat me up. I wasn't a very big kid. He was a football player, just to kind of encourage me not to show up.
But they're attacking you as a child.
Yeah, they don't care. That's one of the things that these people are about, is they're going to control what they want to control. They run everything. There's nothing that you don't have something unless you're allowed to have it. And especially with the people, this is what I've noticed anyway. When I was growing up, I didn't if I had anything they wanted, they just took it. And that was before I was making them lots of money with my ideas that I knew of. I mean, they might have been doing something I don't know about, but my big ideas that they took from me, which I wasn't writing down and doing, but this was things that I did in my everyday life. Everything I did was worth money to these people. Every idea that I had was worth money to these people, and they were able to profit.
Can you explain a bit more about that? What do you mean exactly?
Oh, sure. Well, one of the first things that I noticed, one of the early things was a show where they mocked movies. I used to sit in front of the TV and I would make jokes about it, and the guy who my handler was with me, he was with me. Well, actually, the first one was the neutral stem cell, is when I worked at Hennepin County. I almost forgot about that. It's been so long. In 1985, I worked for a hospital in surgery. And I used to write Bible studies. I was trying to be a Christian because, of course, they wanted me to be, in the Christian thing. And then they, could say, they saved another soul or whatever they were thinking. But I went to work there, and I would come up with ideas, and I told them one time, I said, why don't you use the cartilage from these cadavers? Because that was part of my job, was I would have to take the cadavers down to the morgue and things, and it, give me time to think about things. And I said, why don't you use the cartilage from the knees in these cadavers in the patients that need cartilage in their knee? And then they kind of, that kind of started to make sense to them. And then I was writing a Bible study, and I wrote one on the umbilical cord, and I compared
Can
it
I
to.
ask you something?
Yeah.
A Bible class is totally different to being like a surgeon. So what's the connection then? How did you get?
I was an orderly, and I was one of the people that I worked with was one of the people that I went to church with. He kind of, when I went to work at the hospital, he kind of like corralled me to be a Christian. You know what I mean? He was, I worked with him and in the same surgery department, and he also was kind of leading me to go to church. So I would write Bible studies at church, and then I would, or at work while I'm on break, or I would get ideas and I hand them out at work too. Back then it wasn't a big deal if I handed out Bible studies, because quite a few of the people I worked with were also Christian. And one of them was, very, educated man. So, and woman, his wife was too. They were both very well educated Koreans. And so I wrote a paper on the umbilical cord, comparing it to Jesus. And that same, not much longer after that, they found the neutral stem cell in the umbilical cord blood. And that, I think, was really the first one that I kind of thought, that's a kind of coincidental that I wrote the umbilical cord Bible study, comparing them to Jesus, the true vine. And the next thing you know, especially after I had already done the spinal cord injury injection for steroids and the knee surgery to replace the cartilage idea, they may have started to take notice. This could be not the case, but this is the way I'm seeing it, just because, things seem to progress in those areas after that I did those things. It could have been anything, I'm not saying it was, but it was very coincidental. And so after the stem cell, the neutral stem cell was discovered, even if that's real or not, you know what I mean, it can get weird. This whole thing could be a big made up thing to make me feel like I did something great. Who knows what? I've already thought about that too. And but if there is such a thing as a stem cell, and especially the neutral stem cell, then I certainly feel like it was discovered through after my Bible study was written and handed out, especially in that surgery, because we had a research clinic right next door. And they did the research, and they invented the Tobra beads, and there was a couple other things they developed. So we had a research lab, and the research people worked with us, on a regular basis. I did the instrument. I worked in what's called central supply, where if you needed something for surgery, I would get it. I would set up the trays. If an operation needs so many of these and so many of that, I would set that whole thing up and get it ready for your operation. And then the doctor would come in and he would use the instruments that I set up. And then if he needed something else, he would get me, and then I would bring it to him, and that sort of thing. So I was around doctors. I wasn't just taking, people to the morgue. It was a pretty involved job. And it was a teaching facility.
Yes.
So you didn't need an education. And that was the other thing. It was an entry-level job that they trained you on the job. So you would there's no way you could fail. And so that's what I did. And then, so after the umbilical cord idea, that's when I started thinking, well, that might have been for me. And then I'm still hanging out with this guy who I told you was my handler, or he's still hanging out with me, so we moved in together, we shared an apartment, we went to the same parties, we hung around, pretty much all the time. He didn't have a girlfriend at that time, I didn't have a girlfriend at that time, so we had nothing but time to spend with each other. And so that's what we did. And I really, really suspect that that guy was a handler. I don't know how they operate, but
Wait.
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I didn't realise my microphone was on. I
Oh,
was talking to my dog.
I don't know.
I was talking to my dog. My
Yeah.
dog seems a bit loopy.
So I don't know how they operate, the handler types, but almost everything I did made money. That every idea that I had, and I there's some of them that there's almost no way I can prove, but now that I'm thinking back, right? Because I didn't think these people were stealing my ideas at the time, right? I'm not thinking, this is many years later now, so I'm trying to go back and look at things that may have been my idea. So there may be a little bit of fogginess in there too, where okay, and this still hasn't been made a real big deal yet, is the fact that I was also very successful at being a Christian. So successful that I'm pretty much what I would consider the highest, the highest Christian, if there's such a thing. Because they don't I don't get to go to their churches very much. Years ago I gave up on trying to convince these people that they were in any way mistaken about what they were teaching in the Bible. That's just what I would consider a waste of time. And so they know that I do all the signs and wonders and the miracles and the whole thing. The healing thing might have been from the stem cells, because even though I'm a Christian, I still believe in the scientific ways to heal people. I'm not necessarily convinced that you just lay hands on them and they're supposed to get up and walk. That's never been my belief. I believe in praying for people, but I don't necessarily believe that's an absolute, that you're going to heal people just by telling them they're healed and that's going to be the end of it. So that was one of the things that they didn't, I hadn't brought up yet, is that I succeeded so well with the Christian faith. I mean, these people know. They have it on videotape. They have probably years and years and years of me doing amazing things that there's absolutely no way I should be able to do, telling people things about them that I don't even know. And I mean, it goes like that. It's just some of the things, I don't like to brag about that.
So when did you go to Holland then?
Where did I go?
When did you go after that?
That was in 2006. That was right after I had gotten so sick in that house that I almost died. I needed health care. I didn't have any money. So I had, go ahead. I had enough money to get there.
We've been talking for half an hour, and there's a point that you're going to come to, because you're getting there. So I just wanted to. So you went to Holland. You went to Germany, back to Holland, then.
No, not back to Holland.
America.
Back to America, then Canada.
Right.
Is this not sounding too good right now? Am I not doing well?
Oh no, it's fine. But
professional.
There's a lot of information that you're giving us, but we don't. We don't have forever to say it.
Oh yeah, and it's still just a little bit. Well, in the email that I sent you, I did ask for a couple hours. I was trying to hope you would respond.
I thought you were joking about that.
No. I think the conversation I had with that guy with these headphones, the first time I used these headphones went for 3 hours, and the guy, he refused to send me a copy, and he said he was going to delete it. It turned out that guy is a self-taught theologist, and he was very offended that I said I was the number one Christian, and not just that he was offended that I was the number one Christian, but when I told him about the things that I haven't told you about, but things that I was discussing in that conversation we had on TalkShoe, that you want to call it, for lack of a better word, a podcast. When I was telling him more things that even were similar to that, he said he didn't remember the podcast, but I still did. So I told him, I said, well, these are just things that I had similar to the things that I had mentioned before. But he just completely turned to a different character, in my opinion. There, he was very open about what I was saying.
Yeah, but
And
sometimes people get irked on phone calls, don't they? And then you get an emotional reaction you weren't expecting, and sometimes that happens.
Right. And I asked him before we started, I said, I'm trying not to offend you. And he told me right out, he said, I do not get offended. He said, it would take so much for me to be offended. You know, it's almost impossible, he said. And sure enough, man, he was offended. And,
Can I
and
just
I
say,
was,
Amy or Patricia, is there anything you want to ask as we're here? Amy?
I was gonna ask, like with being a Christian, so you're still a Christian?
oh yeah, I can't ever not be. I'm done. I mean, there's almost
You're
nothing I
still,
can do.
can you?
It's,
Because I'm a
do you know what
Christian,
okay.
and I was just curious because I'm a Christian myself, and
Oh,
you know, I would think that, you know, in the we teach, you know, humility, so like I don't understand why the Christian people would like be offended at you being a good Christian, if I'm making any sense at all.
right,
Like
right. Well,
eh,
see, the issue was with him is I said that I was the number one Christian, the
oh
highest, and in some cases to him, that would be the Messiah. So he goes, so
oh
you think
okay,
you know how they try to put words in your mouth. So he says,
yes,
so you think
yes,
you're the Messiah, you know, and I didn't even know I didn't
right,
say that.
It might be,
And
yes.
so,
James, because you're a very sensitive person and you're just picking up on other people's vibes. So,
oh, well, in that case, what I do is I just try to live. I don't try to do anything. There's no manipulation in me whatsoever. If I'm feeling vibes, then that's what happens to me all the time. And so I don't try to be any kind of person that that picks up on anything purposely, and does anything consciously with it. I really am just this guy who lives my life and tries to do the best I can, and I've been doing pretty good at it. And in my opinion, I have been doing, I won't say good because that's a biblical thing, and I try to say I've been doing okay. And so he was saying, "Oh, well, you're the Messiah." I said, "Well, look, man, I might as well say I am because I really believe that there are not going to be very many changes for the good coming to this world unless I'm in charge." And I know that sounds, I don't want to shock you people with that either, but I'm pretty comfortable in saying that, as much as that sounds
wow,
strange.
what do you
Yeah.
mean by that then? Just asking.
Well, because I have, been this person that served God since I was a little kid, and they only made me a Christian. I was always a Christian. They only made me go to church. I was always a nice person. I was always the kid that didn't want to get in trouble and not do drugs and not drink. Even though, as life went on, I mean, I've experienced those things. I'm not going to say I didn't.
Right.
But I was never one to just go out and do that sort of thing on my own. I mean, I was almost had to be led everywhere, and I would consider that sheepish enough. I was a sheep for a long time, and then
Oh,
I just, grew, and I started to realize that, there, I have this relationship with my environment where I am a person that they would consider a holy man or
Do you know what I thought it was all about, James? I thought the
yeah,
more you wake up, the more the system doesn't work in your life for you. If you're asleep and you're in the system, you don't
yeah,
think. And the
right,
moment you
that's
start to
right.
think and wake up, you
yeah,
realise the system, everything goes against everything. I mean,
yeah, and
Amy's going through masses at the moment because
yeah.
it might be because she's waking up.
Well, I think there's another way to look at that too, is that if you're already awake, not necessarily awake like you say, but you're already not a part of the system, even if you're not awake. Even if you, like me, was just trying to do the right thing for everybody, then that can make you, not part. It cannot necessarily make the world a negative place. Things. Um, you don't have to feel like the world is against you, or you don't want to take part
Well,
in certain
I'm
things.
not even sure whether the Mandela effect only happens when you wake up. If you're asleep, you don't see it, but when you wake up, there's a Mandela effect, and you see it.
Yes.
Every time I've looked at the things that they said, because I didn't have much of an education, but the one that I did have was good. Up until about the 6th grade, my education was very good. I had a very good school in a very old neighborhood, and and I remember books. They would read, or
So
we
what
would.
happened then when you were a child then? Because you said it was as you were a young person.
Right, right. Well, they tore down our school, and they decided to change our neighborhood. We were getting a lot of people that were migrating to the north, from states where they were being persecuted. A lot of the African Americans were coming up here to get away from the South, and so they were mainly in Minnesota. Even in Minnesota in the north, they were finding places to bring all these people in. So they needed more room, and so our school had to go, and they had to build a bigger one. So then when they tore down my school, they didn't even have another one for us to go to. They sent us to another school. They bused us to a school in another neighborhood, and that was pretty much the end of my education. We moved out of that area shortly after that, but that was pretty much the end of my education. From there, it was bused from this school. That school was too full, or they did something else, and I had to go to another school. And so by the time I got to North Star, which was the one that they finally built, they built it underground for some reason, which was very strange. There's pictures of that in those files that I sent you.
What? So you think there was something coming, but it didn't come?
Yeah, I think that they knew that it was time to, to kind of, there was, I don't know what they had in mind, but I know that was the end of my education, and that was the end. I would venture to say, and I've thought about it, I have never seen anybody that I grew up with turn out to be successful. From my elementary school days, I have not seen one single person from my neighborhood, out of them all, every one of them, that has even been in any way successful. For sure, never went to college that I know of.
Oh.
No, not one. And
Can I just say, Patricia, do you want to say anything? Patricia?
No, I'm just listening.
yeah, so the Mandela effect thing, like I was saying, to get back to that, was I knew it was magic mirror on the wall. I knew that. As soon as they said mirror, mirror on the wall, I always instantly knew it was magic mirror on the wall. And the Berenstain Bears,
Who said that? Who said the mirror, mirror on the wall then?
that was was it Snow White or?
Oh, what, you mean the film? You mean when the film came out, you knew they were saying something else?
No, the film came out and they said magic mirror on the wall. I'm almost sure it may have been in the movie and the book both.
Yeah.
Oh, I see,
I
because now it doesn't say that. Now it just says something different.
Well, see, they think it might. They think it's used to say mirror, mirror on the wall because they've heard it so many times. But I was never taught mirror, mirror on the wall. I always recalled magic mirror on the wall. And the same with the Berenstain Bears. I heard, Berenstain once from somewhere too, but that was only possibly, like they say, people that were making fake products of these bears were spelling it wrong. And even in one of the cartoons, they sang it both ways. I got on YouTube and I looked at it, and you could hear him say it's pretty ambiguous, but it sounds like Berenstain the first time, and then Berenstain the second time. So that's easily confused. You know, I wouldn't say that is a justification for any Mandela effect with that one. And there's other ones too. The engines on the planes. You know, I have, you know, looked at planes from years past, and there's engines underneath, just like, you know, they moved them. There's both. There's planes that have engines underneath the wings and planes that got them in front. So, you know, I mean, it just seems like they're chasing their tail with that one. And I don't know if they could ever really, it seems to me like another type of false wonder that these people have to have. Because I'm telling you, man, with what I do, you know, I've seen these television shows come on TV just to try to offend me or to challenge me. And they'll bring these psychic people on TV, and they'll say, okay, do these readings for these people. And they're doing it just to try to be successful so that they can say, look, you are not the only one who can do this. But they weren't successful. They just try to bully me with that stuff. It's a joke. I've beat them all. I've beat every single one of these people. They don't beat me. You know?
So,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh,
Patricia.
no, I just wanted to ask you. So, basically, are you saying that they steal your ideas? Like you have a
Yes.
lot of
That,
ideas, but they
right. That's
steal them, and you don't
yes.
even get the credit for it.
Right.
That
Right.
happens even, you know, just in a common workplace. Like
Right.
I have a coworker that she always comes up with the good ideas, and
Yeah.
then she'll show them to the management, and then they take all of the credit and don't give her the credit, or else,
Exactly.
yeah,
That's
promote
the system that
people.
they
Yeah, the
hide.
system.
Yep.
Yes.
That's the
And
secret.
it's awful. I just went back to work in the I used to work for the federal government, and then I took off to raise my daughter. Then I went back to work in the school system, and I really enjoyed that. But 5 years ago, I went back to the federal government, and I can't even believe the environment there and what it's like. I didn't know the system was like this. I thought, you know, I would get this job and it would be great, and that you just did your work and you would get credit, but it's not like that at all. It's very corrupt and everything.
It
And
is.
yes,
It's it's kind of a like a a club or something. A system
yes,
of well, you know. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. But I wanted to tell you too that also they want to reward people according to their how much they've paid into the system. Like if you get a college degree, a lot of these people that I'm hearing on the YouTube, and they come out and they say these things, and a lot of them are talking about conspiracies, and they say, oh, I went to college when I was in college, and college this and college that. I didn't go to college. But I mean,
mm-hmm,
it seems to me that they have paid for the right to steal from people that hadn't went to college or haven't paid in. People
yeah,
underneath them are their subordinates, and they can take advantage of them according to the system that I have seen. That's the way it appears to me. You know, like if somebody has accomplished something and it has been, you know, appreciated by the system, then they're allowed to possibly take advantage of other people. And
yes,
it, I've seen that a lot. And because I'm not, because I have, you know, I'm probably the lowest of all. I have almost no education, no possibility of being successful without some sort of,
But you did have a good job, didn't you, in a way? I mean, maybe it's not
right.
what you want to do,
Yeah.
where you saw
Yeah.
where the stem cell bit was. You did have a
Right.
good job then. You got somewhere.
They forced me out of that one. That one of
How
the
did you get it?
doctors,
How did you get that job then?
it was in the newspaper, and I had just looked at a newspaper, and there it was, and I thought, you know, that's something that I would like to try. And so that's how I ended up doing that. And I used to walk from, Edina. That's where my mom lived. I was staying with her. I was, still young, and
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, I used to walk. I think it was like 10 miles to work and back. I mean,
Wow.
down the railroad tracks until I could afford a bicycle. I got my first bike pretty quick, but then after I got my first bicycle, I was still riding my bicycle to work and back until the snow came or until I moved into the city closer. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's cold here in Minnesota, and
Yes.
and so what they'll do, and if you tell any of these stories, another thing too is if you tell any of these stories to people and the word gets back to these persecutors, they will try to use it in a way that is offensive. Like I used to walk to work and back every day, 10 miles through the snow and everything. Then they'll find somebody like they did on TV one time and they say, oh, look at this guy, just somebody seen him walking to work and he says he's walking 10 miles every day. So they bought him a car, just to
Right.
kind of to bother me, especially if they know it's something that I used to do too. Then that will be
Yes.
the story. So they use they weaponize their entertainment and their information. It's weaponized entertainment. They use it as a weapon. So all these people that are going out there and you can believe that most of these people in the entertainment business, they're making fairly decent money doing hardly anything, and they
Right.
don't want to give that up. And there's a lot of people in power that are the same way, that they're not willing to give this stuff up. And if it means to keep somebody like me from being successful, it appears to me that there's quite a few of them that don't have a problem, not only keeping me from being successful, but terrorizing and persecuting me or my family or anybody that gets in their way.
Yeah.
They look good on TV and they sound good on the radio or whatever, or the stereo. But when you get down to when you get down to the real business of what these people are into, they're into them being rich and other people, uh, if they get in their way or try to affect that, will become their targets. And they have lots of followers, lots of fans. Like when I showed those video clips when I sent the access to the video clips to Karen,
Mm-hmm.
you can look in there, and I know that's silly. That is silly. That's the silly stuff. I have real hardcore stuff, way better. I won't say way better, but I'll say more uh, detailed and possibly convincible material than that by far. That was just what I got off my two computers. I don't want to go to where my hard drives are hidden, so to
Mm-hmm.
lead them there. So that's just stuff I had on my computer from
Yeah.
recently. Yeah, so all that stuff, even though if you see anything that looks really, really bad or obviously that they're trying to do something to me and that stuff, wait until if you ever get a chance to see the stuff I got. I could put a federal case against these people to where I will absolutely prove that the media is corrupt, that the government is corrupt, and that these people have been terrorizing me for even 10 years at least. That's since the evidence goes back that far, but I could go farther back than that with some of the music that they've played, these bands, because before there was the internet, they used to use music too to
Right.
intimidate me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a tricky subject. I don't know if you're kind of open to that sort of thing or not, but if I told you now, it may, I could tell you a little bit, but I don't really know how to express myself that well, because I didn't get a good education.
Well, you sound very, articulate
Oh,
and
thank you.
everything. You wouldn't know. Oh, you're welcome.
And
Thank
so then I can tell you a little bit.
you.
You're
I
not
can,
the only person that's noticing things, though. I mean, that's
yeah.
probably
Right.
why you're here. The unscrambled channels noticing things just aren't right.
Oh yeah, that's more than noticing. I have evidence, and I can show you that they're doing it on purpose. And it's not just. I mean, I can imagine I'm not the only one. I mean, for sure. Oh, you know,
Oh, I think it is a lot of other, you know, people. I've heard of targeted individuals. I thought maybe
yeah,
I was one for a while, just things that were going wrong with, you know, trying to get back into my job and everything
yeah.
because I had worked for the government and then I was trying to get back and they just kept denying me. And then I finally got back and it was kind of a disaster. And I was starting to wonder for a while if I was one of the targeted individuals, seriously. But how do you think that they choose the targeted individuals?
Well,
Like,
in my case, you know, I still have trouble with targeted individual stories because and I know, see, in my case, I'm pretty convinced that I have something that they want. And that
oh,
when people say that they're targeted individuals and don't really have any obvious reasons why that would be, sometimes I want to get critical about that and say, well,
right.
ooh, what would be the reason? I mean, it could be medical experiments, it could be experimental purposes, because I'll be honest with you, man, I don't want to say that. Okay, I'm going to just go back to the songs in a row. Real quick, if you don't mind, I want to get away from that just because I can tell you
Yeah.
that too, the name of that video is Targeted Tom. It was at one time the one that I did, not video, but I'm sorry, podcast
Mm-hmm.
with that fellow, uh, is called Targeted Tom. That's what he titled it. So he believed that it was a
Oh,
targeting situation too. And
yeah.
and but when it comes to the music, they used to play songs in a row. See, my name is a common word also, so it's not a common word, but it's a word. So what they could
Mm-hmm.
do in some of their songs is they could use that word, say, you know, uh, like a Neil Young song, Southern Man. So Southern is my last name. Then they would say, uh, then it would start out with Southern Man, and then they would go to the next song, and maybe the next song would be, you better watch out or something, or Magic
Yeah.
Man, ooh, he's a magic
Yeah.
man. So they would know that I would be
Mm-hmm.
doing all these signs and wonders, right? Real ones, not fake ones. And I
Mm-hmm.
can even get people to tell you that I do real signs and wonders that don't go to church and don't necessarily even believe in God, but they would tell you what I do is real to them. In my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, I can tell you that I believe that I'd not believe, but I, I think because you can't speak for other people, so I'm kind of stuck right there. But the people that have seen what I do would tell you that I did those things.
Well, well, do you think that you'll be able to get some justice or be able to prove your case? Are you hoping to have any hopes of
Well,
doing that?
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That's the one thing about me, man. I just never give up. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so much more that I'm not telling you, and that's why I sound a little bit anxious and
Oh.
uncoordinated a little bit, possibly, is because
Oh.
I'm not telling you so much. There's so
Oh.
much more to this story that I haven't. That it's not just a time issue, but it's an issue about putting everything to,
Insecurity.
yeah, putting everything together and making sure that I don't sound too crazy, because in case I do ever get something going, I would like to not have that over my head,
Exactly. Yes.
you know. But that there's so much more that if I build a case, which I'm trying to do. I mean, I've been turned down by almost every politician. I live in that. There's a woman called Ilhan Omar who's been making the news, and she's,
Oh,
you know,
yes.
okay. I live in her district. I've been to her office
Oh.
a
Oh,
couple times.
wow.
See, and another thing is they keep you in these districts so that you don't have necessarily access to good politicians. When I went down
Oh,
there, oh, it was ridiculous. When I went
I
in there,
bet.
they, it seemed like they were having a party. and they didn't even want to even really come over and do anything for me. It was very uncomfortable being there. And Amy Klobuchar, she's running for president right now. I have been over to her office, and you know, the things might still be in the works with her, so I'm not gonna badmouth Amy, you know, at the moment, because she really hasn't done one way or the other for me or not for me right now. But her office is maybe a mile from here, possibly less than a mile from here, and so but so far none of these politicians, none of these attorney generals, none of these human rights offices, none of them will do anything for me, and it's all part of that system. They're all in on it,
Yes.
and I'm absolutely convinced. Well, now I won't say absolutely convinced. I have experienced that they all seem to do the same thing, even though in the Human Rights Charter it says they're not supposed to discriminate against you for whatever country you're from. The first thing they tell me, usually many times, is that you're from the United States. We don't represent you. We're a human rights organization. Yeah, isn't that weird? The International Human Rights. The first thing they tell me is if you're from the United States, we only represent people from other countries, and isn't it? Yeah. So right away they know America. If they persecute you here, you're in a worse situation trying to get away than you are if you were, in my opinion, from somewhere else. Even Canada didn't want to let me in because I was from the U.S.
Wow, that is really interesting.
Oh yeah, they told me they were going to put me in jail.
My goodness.
Yeah.
I mean,
running for my life, and they're going to put me in jail. And so they made a deal with me. We won't put you in jail. And they showed me the cell. It was so small.
Oh.
And it was incredible. And so they said, we won't put you in jail if you just retract your asylum request and go back. Like this never happened. Yeah. So
Very
I said, okay. Yeah, some choice that was, you know?
Yes.
So oh yeah. So you see what they're up to. I mean, there's so many things I could tell you. It's just, it's incredible. I mean, the human rights thing, when it comes to torture and that sort of thing, I'll tell you, man, I'm a durable person. I've been riding my bike since I was a kid, and this is a harsh environment, Minnesota. It's cold here. It's
I know.
It's rough. And so when I've been denied even access to the victims of torture center, where you could even meet with other people, and maybe discuss how you feel and whether, if you need support or anything like that. None of that. I'm telling you, for the first time in my life, if you've ever heard the saying, it's like getting punched in the stomach, when people say that. You're familiar? Okay.
Oh, yes.
Well, let me tell you something. I woke up one night, and it was like, I'm telling you, man, like I was punched in the stomach, just like that.
Wow. What do you think that was?
It was panic, or whatever happens. It was from all the accumulation of suffering that I've been through, and I'm so tough. I'm telling you, man, I am there. If there's anybody who is not weak, it's me.
Wow.
I mean, I will even admit that. I'm not bragging or anything. I don't lift weights, but I've been through a lot, and there's a lot. I can take a lot. And I'm telling you, I woke up and it was like something punched me in the stomach. Just panic and fear and just overwhelming, who knows what it was. It was just weird, but that's what it was. It was just like a punch in the stomach.
Wow.
Because I didn't know what the heck they were talking about. And that's when you mentioned that some of these people, and when we were talking about it may be experimental, they know what is happening. They know how to damage you. I believe that. I believe a lot of the medical research, a lot of the psychological research are not just learning how to help people, but they also learn how to hurt people. And they
Oh,
and go ahead.
I had the experience that, just even at my job, I mean, the way some of the managers treat you, it is, you feel like you've been punched in the stomach. And I just feel like they try to invoke so much anxiety
Right.
into certain employees. And if they see that you're, a conscientious person, they take
Yeah.
advantage of it, and they are very mean to you, and they will
Yeah.
try to scare you and just put so
Yeah.
much anxiety on you. And
You may want to try to make friends with people that can help you uh, deal with that situation. Like if you can find somebody in your workplace that has a little more respectability, and maybe try to get their favor. And then if they see that, sometimes they'll leave you alone. That's what
yeah,
I've had to do something like that, where the people that I did actually work with years ago, some of them still know me. So I went over to visit them,
mm-hmm,
and they liked me back
mm-hmm,
then, and they still like me now. So because
yeah,
because of that, I may have found enough favor to get back in there, or
yes,
to stop the people that don't like me from not liking me enough to keep me from doing it again. Because
right,
because when you have that favor with people, it can be beneficial sometimes. I mean, it's
yes,
like I said, it's been a long time for me. But
yeah,
and they do still remember. So when I go and deal with these people, it's that extra added comfort for me, because I don't have any friends. I don't tell these people about what I'm telling you. I you know
right,
you know what I mean. I don't tell them.
exactly,
and
yes,
and so when uh, what was I gonna say? It should come to me, but it's right on the tip of my tongue. It was a okay. I'll think of it and get back to it, because my memory's been getting a lot better. I used to be mainly have a certain diet that wasn't doing me too good, and now it's doing much better.
oh,
I
that's good.
Yeah, I started eating more of a certain thing. I don't know if I should tell you or not, because that's so controversial nowadays. And but oh man, I so wanted to remember that too, and I will. It'll
But
just take a little bit.
Well, you were saying that you tried to keep favor with some people that could help you, so that if you
Oh
wanted
yeah,
to
yeah,
go
yeah.
back.
Yeah. In case I wanted to go back, but there was another
Yeah.
thing besides that. It was on a whole nother side note. It was like, oh, okay. But anyway, with the whole, uh, you know, uh, torture thing, you really, these people, remember now, I can tell you one thing about that news. The local news channel that I got a lot of those clips off of now, since they put the one clip on that said, okay, I was moving into a new apartment, and
Mm-hmm.
and at the time I had not moved there yet. So
Mm-hmm.
what they did was they became too aggressive, and I was able to catch a clip where they said, uh, uh, "Deciding your next move." Well, when they
Huh.
put this, yeah, and I hadn't moved yet. I was supposed to move in like a few weeks, and
Well.
uh, and so when they put on TV "Deciding your next move," they also put my apartment number on
Oh
there
my
too. So
God.
I got that, and so when I put that and I showed that to the guy who I used to work with, oh, I remember what it was. I remember my toilet water cleaned up after I talked to that guy that I used to hang out with, and because I
Oh,
don't use the sink water, the shower water, anything. The only
Can
water
I
I
ask you
had,
something? Why
yeah,
are you so
right.
sure, James? Why
yeah.
are you so sure all these things are being done so personally to you?
Oh, because I have lots of evidence. I have so much evidence. Oh, that just the little stuff I gave you is silly, Karen. That's silly.
Yeah.
And if you find anything in there that you can actually think that in any way is done on purpose, just keep in mind that that's just stuff that I got off my computer that was already there hanging around. It wasn't even labeled until like yesterday when I started going through them, because I didn't know how this was going to go, whether we were going to try to do the in my apartment thing or what, because I didn't want to be around the because they listen to me. I didn't post the 3 years of noise that they did to me to keep me from
So I have
sleeping
to
for.
tell you, James, right now, when
Yeah.
all I wanted to do yesterday on that bit of Trump was actually just see the colour of his eyes. And it turned into this thing. And then when you realise that that's what we're living in.
Oh, I didn't watch that video just because I only had a little bit. Is that the one that you just posted? I might have watched it. I won't say whether I did or didn't, but is that the one that you just put up today?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't see that one, but because I was in, trying to label those video
Just
clips that I sent you.
the
But
way I
I
saw
will
it
look at
was,
that.
it's not happening when we don't watch anything on a screen. When you
I
start watching the
know.
screen for information,
Yeah.
it's happening.
Ah.
And
What I
that's
mean
where,
is, when I talk to Amy or Patricia or I go outside, it's not there. It's happening through the television. I just think that it's a construct that's been set up and it's all for the television.
and that's where we get most of our information. We don't really even read newspapers anymore, anything like that. We're getting everything on the television screen.
Well,
And you go
yeah, go
ahead.
ahead. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, is somebody was saying that there is a lot of television that the lady yesterday that was the daughter of that bank robber, or what, not bank robber, but train robber guy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Marilyn.
She said that too, and I said, man, that is so right on. They teach you through the TV, or they teach you through the medium of images. And whether it's TV, because I don't have a TV, I use my computer, but it's essentially
That film that Russian Vids takes his glasses from, what's it called? Oh, Patricia, what's that film called? They are, or what's it called?
They live.
That's it. They live.
yeah.
That's
I didn't
what
like
we're
that
living
movie.
in. It's They Live. That film.
Well, I didn't care for that movie too much, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah, I know, but the messages that he's seeing through the glasses, like, you think you're looking at this, but you're not. You're actually, because I broke the news down. They were talking about deepfake, but they led
Yeah.
it into the only thing they were interested in was the upcoming elections, and then they added in, oh, we're going to war with Iran. Like,
Yes.
so basically, people aren't listening, but it does go into your subconscious. So basically, they were actually saying something completely different. And what they were really saying was, it's not about you, it's about us.
Well,
Not
Well, I'll
about the
tell you,
people.
when I was in the military, I went in when I was 17. So I got out when I was pretty young too. And but the one thing that I remember, even from way back then, was that they were singing songs about going to Iran and taking it over. And that was
Yeah.
way back in like 1980. They were good.
But none of that's true, because we're not really at war with anybody, because they're all in on it.
Yeah, well, yeah,
I
very
mean,
much.
in 2014, this reporter came forward, and I mean, you don't know whether she's a plant or she's a liar. Her name was Amber somebody or other. I can't remember her second name, sorry. But she was trying to make a documentary about someone like, oh my goodness, I can't even remember the country now, like Burma or something like that. And I have said the country, I just can't think right now because I didn't think I'd be talking about this. But anyway, she came back.
Take your time.
She was trying to make a documentary. And then what it was is they said, oh no, you can't air that. And basically she found out that all the countries buy the news. They buy it. They say, right, can you say we're going to war, we're not at war, we're horrible, we're lovely. And they buy the news, and then the news makes that for them and sticks it out.
Huh.
I remember that, yes. I know what you
Huh.
mean, Karen.
So,
Yes.
so it's like a business that
Yes.
does like a advertising agency or something. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's a business. But the thing is, the whole everywhere is lying. So everywhere is buying their news and buying this, and it's all a game. And it's just
Wow.
they're making the news. They're not even making the truth.
And you know the sad part is, and that doesn't even really affect me so much as possibly you would think, because there really are like terrorizing me in my life. So for
Oh,
when they do things like that, I still can go along with it. If they left me alone and I could do my own thing, I
Do you
don't
know
know
what
if
it
I would.
probably is, James? James, what it is you're probably a very sensitive, awake person, or fairly awake person, and you're noticing this other system which just doesn't work. I mean, it doesn't work for any of us. It's not working for Amy, Patricia, me. And the moment you see it,
Yeah.
it's it's disgusting.
Well,
yes.
it seems like it's some sort of like a social club, that you can belong to it if you do the right things. You just can't, you can't, like when you see people rejecting one belief or another. You can sometimes say, that person. Well, you hear a lot of these people say, well, I don't want to believe in something because of my job. If I believe something, my job might go away. And
Right.
if you see that somebody's going to do that, then what is the next level? Is it somebody that believes something only because they're afraid for their well-being or their financial success, and they have to in turn reject truth? I mean,
It's quite demonic, though, isn't it? Everything
oh
that they're doing is demonic.
yeah. Well, I've
Yes.
got a theory about demons. I think there is a spiritual side of it also, but in some cases it seems to me that the more that you break, the more that you let yourself down, or you let this thing, this this holiness or Holy Spirit down, the more you sometimes become susceptible to evil or to its influence. So you
Yes.
have to stand your ground right away. You have to not allow for
Thing is,
corruption in your
for
life.
me, right,
Yeah.
I've obviously noticed it, and we've got the other channel, but like I started off on this case, and what it is people said, "Oh, do another case." Anything I looked at, even if I did the majority on one case, it was exactly the same in the other cases. And now I've been just doing it this last couple of days around the politics, and it's happening all over that. I mean, what is this that we're in?
Uh,
I'm
that's
not
right.
sure. Well, I can tell you the physical part. I can tell you the part that I've lived and I've seen, and I know that my body functions, my mind functions. I believe I have a soul and a spirit, and I believe that in some cases, I really believe that the heart is the spirit. When they talk
Yeah.
about spirit, and a lot of times you see the spear going through it. It's
Well, I
usually,
made a poem.
Yes.
In my poem I put, "Your eyes are the window into your soul."
yeah, that's a biblical thing.
Yes.
I'm almost sure
It's
that's
not,
in the
it
Bible.
wasn't actually biblical. It was a poem I wrote. But your eyes are the window into your soul, because your
Oh,
eyes have
oh
expression. You can see a lot through people's eyes.
yeah, and you know what?
Yes.
Your soul. Now that was a poem that you wrote.
Mm.
Okay, but did you also know that it might be a biblical verse?
Well, Jesus
Do you
talks
want do you
about
want to hear my poem then, as we're on here? Do you want to
Oh
hear it?
yeah, sure. I did.
yes.
I wrote a poem once, but I left it on that guy's refrigerator that I told you about. Tried to put something in my beer. Go ahead.
Uh,
Let's hear it.
Well, it says, "Why be afraid of your emotional dealings? Too scared to challenge the thought of true feelings? Confused, abused, done out of losing, so you've trapped it inside, abandoned the bruising. You trapped it inside to make it lie there, from child grown to adult and able to share. But you see, your eyes are the windows into your soul, and you're stuck behind them, a facade in a bowl. Your eyes say one thing, your mouth says another, and you're too afraid to put one with the other. But you see, you're the rock forever changing. You have no sides, no bars. You're always moulding and recreating. You see, you're the pun locked deep down inside by fears of past life that nobody knows. So you set your life out in nice little rows, forgetting the reaction of how we react when unspeakingly spoken humans attract. How much not prepared to jump on the emotional roller coaster or the emotional sea tide, but how much are you willing to let go to share with another, to let a seed grow?
Oh, I love
Yeah,
that.
that's nice. It
I
almost starts. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'm so bad at writing poetry, but I'm really impressed here, and I love that.
It was
Yeah, I wrote
nice.
a few poems in my 20s, early 30s.
It almost could be a song.
I
You know,
know.
it was like it was that well done.
Yes.
And
I know
or
it's not bad for somebody that was called a dunce at school and couldn't read or write. And I can see that when they do affect communication, it affects everything, because one of the ways that we express ourselves is through our language and words. But a lot of us
Yes.
don't even know what the words mean, and you know that we touch etymology and all that. So you don't even know what you're
Yes.
saying. But if you don't even know what the words mean and you can't even spell them, imagine how stuck. And I missed the whole of my junior because of that IPA. So I've had to teach myself. But I mean, most people
Aw.
listening hopefully can hear I'm not stupid, but that's where they put me. I was stupid. I was backward.
Oh,
huh?
that's terrible because you're very intelligent,
But the system
Karen,
did that to me. And
but
my
that's the
parents didn't seem to
system.
notice because they were always whatever in their life and arguing, whatever's going on. And they didn't
Right.
notice. They thought it was me.
Oh, yes.
But it
Yeah.
wasn't. It was the system I was
It was
put
the
in. Because
system.
they
Yes.
never said at the, what was I at? Some kind of play group thing, preschool thing. But they never said at the next one, she has been piloted on ATA. So nobody noticed. So I must have just been looking out the window all day. I must have just been bored.
And the
Right.
weird part is that I have been looking forward to talking to you since I first heard you. You know, and you
Oh.
seem like one of the smartest, nicest people I've pretty much ever heard.
Oh.
Well, that's good
And
then.
well, some of the
Yes.
things you say are just incredibly insightful. You know,
They are.
they are.
Yes.
I
Yeah, but I
think.
didn't mean to see those things. I told you, I actually started off in favour of that case. I thought it was horrible that this person had died, and then people were saying all these things about this person's character. So I started
Yeah.
making videos because I felt quite protective. And then
Huh.
came the shadows. And then suddenly, about January, I started breaking them down, and I was absolutely horrified. Instead of getting a piece of proper footage, we were getting something that had been completely doctored, and things had been added, and all sorts of things were going on. I've done that. I did 20 odd videos on it, and I know it was all blurs. It's so annoying because you have to get really into it to see through the blurs.
Yeah, and the video, anything you see on the internet or anywhere nowadays, the video, you don't
I'm
know
so
if it's.
shocked because we're supposed to be living in a place where we think we're on HD and look at the cinema, we get everything in 4D and all this, but there is the
Yes.
television. Now, when you wake up, I know that Amy, Patricia, I don't know about Patricia, but I'm sure she does. When you now watch anything, you don't see anything clear. You can see it without even slowing it down.
Yep. That's it. That's what
Amy,
happened
do
to
you know
me.
what I mean?
Yes,
Do you know what I mean?
do. Yes, because now I can look at footage, from that case, and I don't even have to slow it down or anything, and I can see, but before I would just look and just, before you helped me open my eyes
I never
and wake
noticed
up.
it before. I never noticed it, but I do now. Everything I look at.
Right. I know, me too. And it's really hard to even look at your television, put the news on, and I just keep seeing things that don't look right and everything. So,
Do
like
you know
you
what? I know
said,
this is actually going to be very simple, right? Turn your television off. I mean, choose what you're going to watch. I know that we're making videos and people will watch on Scramble. But the moment you turn the television off, your life starts to change. It just does.
right?
For me, it just takes my time. That's all. The only reason I even get into the TV is just because I know I'm going absolutely nowhere. I mean, I could try to do other things, but in my situation, I don't think that's, going to help me much. All the
Right.
years that they've been irritating me and distracting me, they never let me have enough peace even
You
to
know what, though,
educate.
James? In
Yeah,
a sense, for you, whatever this has happened, but in a
yeah.
sense, the system worked because now you don't trust anybody.
Well, no, yeah. Well, in a way, yeah, in a way, that's true. But I could have been developing friendships, and I think to this day, being this number one Christian and saying that, things aren't going to really get much better without me being involved, that they know that a lot of these cities and the way they're designed are designed to keep people never ever escaping that system.
Oh,
So
absolutely. Yes.
So that's where they play on everybody's fears. The all the different special interest groups now that they have, if you want certain rights anymore, now you have to fit in a category of people who uh, have to be protected or have to be some sort of allowed certain things.
I feel really sorry for people like who go into the military and things like that. They don't realise what they're entering at all.
Well, it's hard to
Right.
say because I think a lot of it's hard to say what they're thinking. But in my case, it was just a simple matter of I didn't have any money, I didn't have any education, I didn't have, and they offered
What
me.
did you do then? What did you do in the military?
I was a chemical warfare specialist, but I didn't quite go that far. So I quit, doing that MOS.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was many years ago. And see, the thing is, the Army doesn't really want you to have a job that you can transfer to the outside, in my
Mm.
opinion. Back then, it was really, they only mostly wanted jobs in the military that you really,
You know what the
unless you were like
military's about,
a
don't you?
mechanic.
It's about making everybody one, not making everybody an individual, which is really what they're doing in our personal lives. I mean, the whole thing is they've forgotten to tell us we're in a boot camp because they're doing the same thing
Yeah,
to the civilians.
yeah,
Yeah.
In the
yeah.
army,
It's kind of,
you're not allowed to be individual. You've got to be part of the pack, and then they'll be
yeah,
trained
Exactly.
with a
it's
mindset.
kind of communist system.
Yes.
And then you got your, fearless leader at the top, and everybody kind of falls in. But then you got guys too that are glorifying it, like Tom Cruise, and you got all these people that are out there saying, "Oh, I'm this, this wonderful person," and whatever he believes. I don't know what he believes, but you got these people out there that are convincing other people, for money to do these things. So as far as I'm concerned, they just want to, you know, take the show away from me. You see, that's a lot of the things that they do in this world, is that they have to create a disturbance or a distraction to get people to stop wanting to know about me. First of all, they keep me
Yeah.
broke and out of sight, so I'm not going anywhere, threatened and whatever they got to do.
It's not just you though. It's a
Oh,
lot. It's everybody really.
well, it's just me in the way that I'm the number one guy.
I mean,
You know,
that they make these false gods like football and these
oh
stars
yeah, no,
for
I know the
millions
false
of
gods,
dollars
but
that we can
when it
never,
comes,
ever, ever earn. And a lot of
but
people are on the minimum wage, and it's just not good enough.
believe me, I've a lot of those issues that are being talked about. I've already thought about them. I already brought them up. I told this one guy at the store, I said minimum wage should have been $20 an hour in this country a long time ago, and he was at the hardware store, okay, and I was gonna and I got something, and I went home, it didn't work, and I brought it back, and so I was talking to him while I was bringing it back, and I said, the devil's in the details, okay, and they've been saying this a lot. The one guy was saying it in his Owen somebody or whatever, he was saying the devil's in the details. So these people, they're finding out about me, Karen. I'm telling you, there's people that you on the internet involved in some of these movements, from one thing to another. These, what do you call them, conspiracy types or whatever you want to call them, Karen, that know who I am, and they trade information about me that they may not be telling you about. There's a lot of these people that know who I am.
Why just you? Isn't I'm not putting you. I'm not going against
Yeah.
anyone. But why do you think you? Because I mean, I think that the moment you start waking up to the system, it's a bit like, I don't know if I want to live in this system, and it's working against me all the time. Now I know what it is and I can see it. It doesn't work with, because I don't want to be a part of it. It's just not working for me anymore.
Yeah, but that isn't that. There's certain things that you can do to provide things for the system that will get you things in return, and you can change that. See, there is such a thing as being successful. You don't have to just drop out. You can accept a job and you can do things that'll still make your life enough, give you enough resources to where you can change that.
I can see through it. Amy can see through it. Patricia can
But it
see
doesn't
through
go
it.
away. Seeing
Not the
through it
people
doesn't
that
make it
I've
go away.
travelled in my other channel. We see through this matrix that they've set up.
But
The
it
thing is
doesn't
that
make it
it
go
is
away.
so many layers. Like, I almost can't believe it that it's
But
that layered, full
it
of.
doesn't go away. It doesn't, seeing through it doesn't make it go away. I'm telling you, I can make it go away. And that's what they don't want. They do not want you to have a future. They want you to keep thinking that you can have every kind of philosophy and belief that you want to have. They don't care. You can complain all day long. You can say, oh, I'm discovering the meaning of life and this and that and everything. You can expose every criminal, everything. It doesn't matter. It's not going to go away. That's the rule. The number one thing that people need to know is I'm the boss. I don't mean that in a derogatory way. You don't have to follow me, blah, blah. I don't care. I'm not
You mean
saying
the boss of yourself?
I'm the boss of this whole thing. There's nobody. This world is probably not going to go. You have to earn your way in this world. Okay, you have to it's not a respect thing. It's not an education
What
thing.
do you mean though? What, you can change everything? How can you do that then?
Well, it's just a simple matter of being in charge. If I was even
What, you
if I
mean
was
yourself? Are you talking about yourself?
Oh yes, I am. I'm talking about myself. Yeah, you're right. I don't need anybody because what do I need to do? If I wanted followers, wouldn't I have to have freedom?
But I mean,
You're right.
that's the whole thing that people don't realise, that the system is so that nobody wants to be, well, no one seems to be responsible for themselves. The society seems to be very narcissistic. Nobody cares anymore.
Well, here's the thing. You look at the rich. Well, look at the rich people. Here's the rich people. They're out there living in mansions, right?
It's like every day they're changing the history without us noticing it. And I know this might seem very boring, but down the road is a town to me called Hungerford. And the ford means that it used to have water and was a ford. But nobody's really learning about these things anymore. So although you're moving on and there's history, you're forgetting so much of it. You're almost blanking history out as you go along, because the young ones today don't think, oh, well, Hungerford used to have water with it. It's just a word called Hungerford. Do you understand what I mean? I'm just using that word. I'm saying that's what they're doing in society. So that I think this is how they're creating. I mean, like most of us know that Mandela, if you were alive and you heard it, you heard Mandela died in the 90s. Willie Mandela.
I never knew anything about Mandela. Nothing.
And then he became president years later, and he divorced her, and she got nothing. How can that be that? And no one says anything, and even like all these.
I heard he got out of prison and became president.
No one says anything. No politician says anything. Nobody seems to be looking. No one cares, and they're on a completely different agenda, even though they're the ones plowing it out.
Well, it's no different than any other TV show or movie. People are not real. They're not real to you. You know what I mean? They're not real to me. So what do they matter? You know what I mean? It's no different than watching a television show. Say there's a television show called Mandela, and he died, and they pretended he died. Or what's a big show over there? The one where Killing Eve or something. I don't know if that's the right name, but something like that.
I have some lovely in-laws that I still see, but the thing is, when you go around there, they want to watch every program on the television,
right?
Every single one. From like quizzes, then comes the local news, then comes the news, Then
You
comes
want to
the
know
local
something
news again.
about
Then
the
comes
British? There was a
comes
British.
the soap operas,
Yeah.
and they go, shh, we're watching the
Yeah.
television. Shh, we're watching.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you are in it. Shh.
Yeah.
The only way they're interested is if you're talking about what's on the programs.
Okay.
And the other thing I think is disturbing is the children today. All they want to do is be on their cell phone. They don't, even if they're like having interactions with
They
each
don't know any
other,
different now, do
they're
they,
not.
Amy? I mean, we used to
Yeah,
go and play in the parks
we
and
used
things.
to go
Yeah. Yeah.
play,
Me too.
and
And now they've
Me-
said that the
now
world is so bad out there and everybody's killing each other. Don't let your children out. They talk about
I
paedophilia all the
know.
time. And all I can see is that we're actually quite peaceful. And the only place
Yeah.
you see the violence is on the television, which is the Tell Live
Yes.
Vision.
You want to know
Yes.
something? There was a British person from television person that came to Minnesota years ago, and I don't know if you're familiar with them, but he uses a big cell phone and he yells into it. It might have been Trigger Happy TV or something like that. He came all the way to Minnesota to play his tricks, and he went right to Blackie's Bakery or something. It used to be a bakery over Northeast. Northeast is kind of like that area where, I don't know what to call it, but anyway, he went over there, and I'm telling you that if I'm not mistaken, he may have even made a return visit. This British guy, comedian, and so what it
Sure.
and I'm telling you that I'm not convinced, but there may have been something. He may have even been here to either find information or something about me as well. And that guy was on it was a show called Trigger Happy TV, and he had a really big cell phone that I saw on the British TV.
You're making it sound like you're
Yeah.
Neo, and the
Yeah.
other guy that comes always chasing him. That's
Yeah.
what it's like. But
It's
can I
kind of
just
like
say,
that.
James, we've been
Except-
actually going for an hour and a half now.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
know that you want a bit more time, but I just wondered, does Amy or Patricia want to ask anything?
Well, right now I can't think of anything that I want to specifically ask. So if you just wanted to carry on, I don't know
Okay.
about Patricia.
Patricia?
No, I'm okay. I'm just trying listening, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Patricia.
For the
Nice
for
to
the
hear
bit
you.
that you came onto this channel, what's the point that you want to make then?
Well, the point is, and if you listen to if you can leave a link, if you can somehow, we can work out a way to get a link into the description to the podcast or whatever they want to call it that I did with that guy. And then we can kind of go, it kind of can give them a little bit of a feeling for, that was just a spur of the moment podcast. I don't practice talking to people. That's just the way
You
things
can add
happen.
it.
But-
You can put, you can answer the podcast and put it in there.
Or if you could drop a link, that would be great, because I sent you the link in that all those.
Yeah,
where
you did.
you got access to the four shared also with those files, and if you want, just go through them, just look at them and see the numbers that are going to be relevant are going to be 1009 now, since I moved into 1009. I didn't put any in the 1005 on there, but I have a lot of that. But 521, because I'm Mr. 521. That was on my Bible study from the beginning. Mr. 5 was a name that I got from a song that I felt was about, not felt was about me, but it sounded like they were saying enough things that I could relate to, that related to me, that I thought that may have been something for me. So I took the name Mr. 5 from a Soundgarden song. But when I told that guy that, I also didn't tell
Can I say
him.
something? I mean,
Yeah.
we are listening, and
Yeah.
I do feel for you, but I must
Yeah.
admit that one day I was breaking down this NASA footage, and I was looking at it, and I swear to God, this nasty word, begins with BITC, that one.
Okay.
It suddenly came over this bit of video, and I actually turned everything off and sat there for a moment, because it just freaked me out that I could hear that word being said when children watch it, and I was thinking, yeah, put that in for me, because I spent hours on this footage and I kept going back through posts. Suddenly there was this word.
Oh wow.
I made a video about it.
Yeah. Well, with the one that I
I'm
was
saying,
mentioning.
what are they doing to us when even if I just came across it, why is these words in there? People aren't listening. They're not listening.
Right.
No.
Well, I don't know. I can't say. I'd have to hear it. But I'll tell you that the song that I mentioned where I got the word Mr. Five, the name Mr. Five, came from a Soundgarden song. And this goes way back. I mean, these people have known me for a long, long time. But when I talked in that podcast, which I was kind of hoping you might have, you're not hoping, but it would have been nice if you would have had a little bit of reference from there, because in there, when I told them about that song and the grunge thing and the people from up that way in Washington area a little bit, there's another band. When I told him, I said, the only thing I ever did wrong in my life, I might have lied. I told him. I said, I told this to a Baptist minister that lived next door. I just ran into him one day and I said, if I wanted to talk to somebody, we talked a little bit, and I said, I might have lied. So the next thing he seems to, this message seemed to have gotten out all over the place. Everybody seemed to have known what I said to this guy. And so the song that came out shortly after that, because there's a bunch of music. Believe me, the music industry, the movie industry have just made millions off me, and a lot, probably billions, and you'll hear some of that in that podcast too. And so the song was called, and remember when I told you my last name was Southern, okay? Mm-hmm. It's a song called Interstate Love Song by Stone Temple Pilots. And in that song, he says, I'm leaving on a southern trail. Only yesterday you lied. And
wow.
and that was right after I had that talk with that guy. So these people have been doing this to me for a long, long time. And like I said, these are simple ones. These aren't even difficult. I got.
Do you think if you were telling us that you were in the military and you did what you did, do you think it's something to do with that?
No. I got out of the military. I got out early. My stepdad had died. He passed away, so I got out on a hardship discharge. He died when I was just starting to get in through basic.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
He had cancer. I think he wasn't planning on and back then they didn't have warning things on cigarettes. I'm not sure if all of them did or not when he started. It maybe not, but he was hooked at a very early age on cigarettes. So by the time he died when I was in the military, they let me go home and just be with my family instead of staying in. But do
you want to make your point then?
Well, I was trying to make it. The point is that there isn't going to be an end to any of this until either one thing. You're right. I can take care of myself, Karen. It doesn't matter. I know that. I know I can be all alone in this world. I don't have to deal with anybody else. But I'm telling you, if you think there's a solution to this problem without me, I'm gonna kind of think that things would go a lot easier at the head, and not the tail. And a lot of the people that you're seeing and you talk to, possibly some of them and talk to, may have information about me that they're not telling you, that they're sharing secretly. And a lot of them are gatekeepers, and they're just playing along with this stuff because they're getting out of life.
What's really this information against you then? What is it? Oh.
Time. I would like to do another show with you where we could screen share and do all that fancy stuff, but I don't know how to do that right now. And this place that I'm living in is nothing but spying on me all the time. I'm telling you, if they don't have cameras in my apartment, I'd be surprised. I know the lady upstairs is still the same lady upstairs as the one that I mentioned earlier about the 3 years of making noise over my head so I couldn't even sleep for 3 years. Day, night, morning, everything made noise all the
Wow.
time. Very few breaks. And if they thought I was going to sleep, then they would start it again. And I have that on DVD. I just have to go get it where my files are, where my hard drives are stored, and put it on the internet. Because I also showed you, I gave you a link to the water that they polluted for me for 7 years. That's on there too. So I mean, this isn't a joke. I'm not just like these other people, Karen. I'm telling you, the people that are dealing with you and the people that are dealing with this YouTube, a lot of these guys are just gatekeepers. They can talk all this crazy. These people are criminals, and that guy did something, and oh, he has an island and all this other stuff. You know, his island's name is St. James. You know what my name is? James. You know, I have had a person that bowed down at my feet that I never even met before.
Oh my.
Yeah, as far as I know, I never met them. And you walk into these. We have a store here called Target. You walk in at
Yeah.
one time to these Target stores, and almost every one of their clocks with the numbers 521 on them.
Oh my. That is crazy.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's not it's odd, but you know, and so you can see why they're trying to play like I'm crazy, why they're trying to play like I'm just some kind of paranoid or weird person that's, you know, sees things the way I see them, and that's it. It's not that way. I'm telling you, I'm the real thing. You know what I'm saying? They have all. I beat every one of these people at their game, and there's some master manipulators. I mean, don't kid yourself. I mean, they give me diseases, and you know, they don't treat me when I'm sick. I mean, it ain't like that. I ain't you know, invincible. But every game that they've played, I have won. The spiritual game, they can't beat.
I hope you.
Right.
Sorry, Amy, say that again. We can't hear
I
you.
hope you can. How about now?
Start now.
It might be my.
See, they want to keep things going. Yeah, I can hear you now. Oh, there you go again. There you go
Can you hear
again.
me now? Can you hear me? This?
Yeah, try
Hear
now.
me now? Okay. Oh, I was just going to say that I hope you and pray that you could keep on going,
Thank you.
James, because, you know, we need some help because, oh, you're welcome, because it's really awful what's been done. And I was telling my sister about it, how everything is a show and everything. And she said, but what could we do about it? I said, I don't know. That's the question. I said,
Yeah.
I guess just be aware, be awake, and, you know, put our faith in God and ask Him to lead us. But we
Well,
really do need help against what they're
yes.
doing to us.
Well, no,
So,
I am the help. Believe me,
yes. Well,
I can get this done. And they steal my ideas because they get rich off them. And this is money that if I would have had, I could have already changed the world. They owe me trillions of dollars. And they know it. See, that's what we were talking about. That is the system. They don't just do it to me, but I'm the big boy. I'm the goose that lays the golden egg. You know, I am the highest. And you're gonna see in some of those clips, you know, not you're gonna see, but if you look at some of those clips I have in there, even where when they do the weather forecast, they put the line across the United States. It's in Canada, but the one state that it touches is the Minnesota, and it touches the very tip top of Minnesota, and that's where I am. And they want it's kind of like a little thing where when they do the weather, it's and I just thought about it today, or it might have been yesterday. It was sometime within the last 24 hours. I said that's the spiritual wickedness where? In the highest place. It's in the highest point in Minnesota. That's the tip top. And they put that line touching right there. And they know I am you know, and I don't want to brag and I don't want to irritate you, Karen, because I know it sounds misogynistic a little bit and manly and all that, but I'm telling you, this is a spiritual thing, and I have done it. When I told you that you earn your way in this world, is you earn your way in the spirit world. You know what I mean? I am not a drunk and a drug addict that gave it all up and found Jesus. I was from the beginning, you know,
Right.
and that's what they aren't. They've already peed away their life, or they followed the wrong path, and then now they want to come back around and be these victories for the downtrodden and all this other stuff, and they just want to steal it from me. I'm telling you, I was saying there was no such thing as gravity back in before 2010 on these Skype room channels. I was
Oh,
saying things
wow.
I was saying things on servers that they stole so many ideas from me on servers that they ended up selling that made these people rich. I I won't say, you know what I'm saying. I'm just going to say I didn't believe in gravity. I won't go any further than that. But you
Wow.
know, telling them, you know what? You know, I mean, I won't get into that. Maybe that's for another conversation. But Karen, I don't mean to offend you, and I don't mean to shatter all this whole paradigm of these people coming out and saying, "Oh, look, we dug some information up and this and that and the other thing." You know where it goes? Nowhere. It usually goes nowhere. These people they don't. If that'll make you
That.
happy, they might do that. But when you see all these things, man, that come to pass, and you got to realize that they are doing it usually for a reason. A lot of them are distractions. Like they could go to war, you know, like my sister was going to marry
Yeah,
this.
and a war that didn't even happen. It's only done on the television.
Right. When my sister was going to marry this millionaire from Iran, he had so much money, he used to have a pile of it in his living room. Okay, and my sister is a
Wow.
very nice girl. Oh, you know, she was a sweetheart, and you look a lot like my sister, Karen. I
Aw.
guess, yeah. She's a nice person too, and she used to be. She still is, I think. And so what goes on right away? Iran holds hostages, and they send all the Iranians back to Iran. And there goes my sister's fame and wealth and everything right with it. And I almost to this day think that was another thing that they did to make sure that our family wasn't going to be wealthy, wasn't going to be
Aw.
able to succeed. Because if she would have married into his family, I would have probably had it made. I mean, I don't know if I'd have been the same person, so maybe it was good that that didn't happen. But you know, you can never say. You know what I mean?
Right.
Who knows? But these are things that sometimes that will happen. And what I do is I call them they're like the fruit of the fig tree that falls out of season. They whenever they want something to happen, they just drop another fruit. And then
Mm.
and you see them and you know that these are, you know, things you not necessarily know that these are things that they're doing on purpose to make sure that you something doesn't go the way they don't want it to. So you know, but I want to get back with you, Karen, if that's okay, if I haven't completely worn out my welcome. You know, otherwise,
Well, I think that we'll probably need to have another chat because I don't think we can finish it all in our talk. We've been going for nearly 2 hours now.
oh, I could go all day, and I'm standing out here, and its temperatures have dropped a little
James,
bit.
I
can
know.
we sort of like just put the pause button on and come back to this one because obviously you've got a lot more to say. But
Yeah.
Patricia, now I do want you to say something. Patricia,
Yeah.
yeah,
there's
we'll have to have another talk with James. But what do you think of today's hangout then?
Interesting to say the least.
Yes.
thank you. If I was had
Fascinating.
it,
Fascinating.
and there's
I
just a
agree.
little bit, and I have so much more. Like I was saying, I don't. This is only the beginning. That I have incredible amounts of information, and not only information, but I mean, I am a person. I don't even really want to have anything to do with this information. I want to go live my life. I want to be who I'm supposed to be, but that's almost, it can be very difficult, when they keep you in a, the way they keep me like I don't know if I should say that
Slave.
word. Yeah, slave. Okay, thank you.
Mm.
Somebody had to say it. I think that's what it is. But
Amy, do you want to say anything? Because there's James could go forever.
can I
Yes,
say
well,
something to
He's got a lot
Patricia?
to say.
well, it's just been a fascinating discussion. I've really enjoyed it, and I hope we can do it again because
Me too.
you have masses of information, James, and it's very fascinating. And
Thank you. It
you're
was fun.
welcome, and I thank
I
you for sharing it because
I
it's just really fascinating.
I I enjoyed myself as well. Thank you.
Oh,
I can't
great!
tell you how much I was looking forward to this. There were
Oh,
days all
great!
week I wanted to call Karen and just say, let's do it right now, right now. You know? And I said, no, just be
What's
patient.
made you say something now then? Just asking.
Say something as far as what?
Well, come to me or want to come on the channel, want to have a hangout.
Yeah.
What's made you want? Obviously, you're doing it on your own channel, but what you want to go out more now?
No, I just decided that, I contacted the other guy, the guy that I told you that I did that podcast with, and he seemed completely different than he was the first time. So, and we had a very good conversation, probably 3 hours. But he decided he was going to delete that call. And he wasn't going to do anything with it. So I said, well, I would like maybe to at least have another opportunity to try to do something because, let's face it, I have to do something eventually. And this is getting now to the point where I think that's something that I should take more. I should attempt to do, before things get any, I don't know. I don't want to say before things get any worse. I think I'm.
How much worse could things get? The president is a cartoon.
And
Well,
I didn't hear that. It was all broke up.
Sorry, I said how much worse can it get? I looked at the footage of the president only yesterday, and he's a cartoon.
Oh yes, and well, not just worse than it can get, but I'm learning how to talk now. See, I know it sounds silly, but there's certain ways that you kind of want to talk if you're going to say something to not trap yourself and get into a situation where can I use the term like the devil can pin you in a situation with your words. He can say, oh, you said this, and now you have to, because a lot of the times, even in the Bible, that was the thing with Satan. He would try to use Jesus's words. And that's one of the
yes.
things that it took me a while to now where I can start saying things without trapping myself. Where before I would,
I sort of understand what you mean in a way, James, because
okay.
being quite awake, you know everything's wrong, but every day you almost have to convince yourself that it is wrong because it's almost unbelievable what you see.
Okay.
It's so unbelievable that it can be happening that nearly every day you've still got to say to yourself, we're in it. It was easier when I was blind because then I didn't question all this or look at it all. It was simple then.
Exactly.
And now it's worse than it could ever be.
Yes.
Well, a lot of it seems like it's money oriented. So once you kind of see things for like, well, people want money and they want to. In some cases, some of the people really enjoy persecuting me for, demonic reasons. Those types. Because I didn't mention one song.
Some of it might be, James, that because you're quite not, I wouldn't say outward spoken, but up front, people can't handle it.
Well, the one song that I didn't mention, there was more demonic toward the number 5, is back even before a lot of these, before the 10 years that I've been collecting, things. But when I told you they used music earlier on. I did want to, I could say the song called Clean My Wounds is
A lot
one,
of people will understand what you're talking about on a lot of that stuff. A lot of
yeah,
other people can see it too.
yeah. So that was one by, a certain band called Corrosion of Conformity. And that looks pretty demonic, and they absolutely show you the number 5. They show you this dude with all these, the words, there's words all over him, kind of letting me know that that might be something for me. So, but I won't say for sure. But I did want to say that, the one person that is from from Great Britain or from England, I don't know what they call it anymore, that I had some respect for in the music world, except for, a couple songs that were pretty bad, that he may have looked kind of like a person that wasn't that nice of a guy. But, I think, the music was really a big help for me sometimes when I was younger. And,
Yes.
and it helped me to, kind of, some of it was to kind of, it would, if, it was just an odd thing. And like, there was so much knowledge in music that people were sharing that sometimes you could pick up on things. And so there's one other guy, but the last one is the one that I said that was bad. But there was a couple of bands from your country that I really, really I appreciated, especially one certain person, and I'll tell you who that is maybe next time. But it was definitely, there's a lot of talent where you're at out, in this world, and a lot of talent, a lot of
Yes.
wonderful people came from Great Britain. I'll say that, in my opinion. So I don't think there's hope. All hope is lost, because I still see a lot of decency in people.
Yes.
James, I've
Yes,
really enjoyed us talking.
I have to.
Um,
Thank you.
Me too.
and obviously just put a pause button down, and we'll come back and have another
Okay.
podcast. But
Okay.
we'll say goodbye now for the live thing, and we'll say goodbye off air.
Okay.
Okay.
Patricia, Amy, do you want to say anything before we go?
Oh, I would just say that this has just been such a fascinating discussion, and I think we all have we're all awake, and we realize that the system is not working, and it's really bad, and it probably might get worse, but we just have to stick together, and and love each other, and be respectful, and just not give up, and just be willing to be awake. And I know, like, my daughter, she's only 30 years old, and I try to tell her things, and she can't handle it. And I guess I can understand at her age, because she's still making her way in the world, and she has been blessed with a good job and so forth. So she doesn't want to hear, like, a lot of that kind of stuff. But at my age, I kind of don't have anything to lose, I guess. Like, I just really want to be awake, and I hope we can just all, help each other, to stay awake and be alert. And that I pray that James would be able to help
Yeah,
us.
start learning to help each other.
other.
Start helping. Yeah, start learning to help each other, Amy.
Exactly. Yes.
I mean, Amy, Patricia helps me massively. Amy helps me. We help each other. We give information, and that's the start of it.
Yes.
Patricia, do you want to say anything?
Yes.
Yeah, just can't wait for the next installment, because it's fascinating.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Yes.
reaching out to Karen.
Thank you, Patricia, for reaching out to Karen for me. I wasn't able to get a response from you, Karen, and I reached out to Patricia.
I don't understand that, because it did come through, but sometimes it's a little bit like that from Yahoo to Gmail.
Okay. Well, I thank Patricia for that. She's a wonderful person.
Oh, yes.
I won't ever forget that. Thank you again. And yes, if that's interesting enough, I think, hopefully the next installment is just going to be, as good, if not better. I won't say good.
Well.
I'll
That's
say
my little dog wanting to go out in the
great.
background. But James, thank you so
Yes.
much for the hangout.
You're
And
welcome. Thank you.
Yes.
yeah,
It's
thank
my
you
pleasure.
everybody for listening.
Yes. Thank
Good.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Love you all.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you got it in,
Love you
Patricia. You got
all.
it in.
Love,
Yeah, love to everybody.
love to
Love you
everybody.
too.
Yes. Love you all. Karen and Patricia and James. Love you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, James. Thank you, Patricia. So I'm going to stop the recording now.
You okay?
Okay.